I think that's the biggest shift that I have observed since I've been in the industry, which is a question I always like to ask people. What is considered luxury has changed, has shifted. The younger, newer buyer, from the millennial buyer, Gen Z buyer on, they're very values focused. And so that means they actually really do a lot of research. Thanks to technology, we have access to tons and tons of visual data at a moment's notice. Everything's on demand. So that means there's a lot more knowledge about materiality and manufacturing and where things come from and if they're good for the environment or not, and if they're good for indoor air quality in your home or not. And that is changing how people buy. That's changing what people consider luxury.
Hey, y'all, it's time for the Designer Within, episode number 16. I'm John McClain, and welcome to the Designer Within podcast, the business-minded podcast created for creative entrepreneurs by a creative entrepreneur. That's me. I know firsthand the challenges, but also the victories that can come with our careers. And I'm here to sip and spill the tea with you. It's time to dive deep within yourself and redesign your own business and your life from the inside out. Together, we will uncover secrets and share valuable insights. So prepare for a transformative experience, my friends, because it's time to unleash the designer within. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Designer Within. I'm John McClain, your host, and I'm so happy to have you here. We are 1 week-ish away from High Point Market in North Carolina. And if you are not familiar with High Point Market, where the heck have you been? If you are a designer or aspiring designer, new, seasoned, I don't care. I don't care where you live. If you don't know about High Point Market, you must be living under a rock, and I do want you to learn more about it, and that is what today's episode is about. And if you are listening to this episode in real time, I'm going to be sharing with you the locations where I will have speaking engagements, as well as where my guest, Courtney Porter, will also have some speaking engagements. So stay tuned for that. But this episode today, as I said, is all about High Point Market, all about all of the fun, and I do feel like it's fun. I love going there. I'm from the South anyway, and it's in North Carolina, as I said, and I'm from Georgia, so it's not a far cry from where I was born and raised. So for me to go from the West Coast, where I live now, back to the East Coast, and the leaves are changing, and the temperatures are great, and they have music, and they have food, and they have cocktails. They have lots and lots of cocktails. So many. And it's just so much fun running into old friends and meeting new friends. And again, as I said, if you've never been, you must go. And if you have been, you know what I'm talking about. You're seeing all the latest furniture, all the latest lighting, accessories, area rugs, everything that you can imagine is at High Point Market. And on top of that, there are lots of opportunities for you to learn, lots of panel discussions, lots of interviews. And what I love about this is that they're all offered free. So High Point Market does this outreach, if you will, and it allows different showrooms and different companies to sponsor these events. And these events are speaking engagements and they're panel discussions, as I said, and sometimes just conversations. Like, for instance, I'm having one at Universal Furniture on Sunday, October 15th at 4 p.m., and I'm spending an hour talking about pricing. I'm going to talk all about pricing, going to talk about my new pricing model and how I have come up with a new way to price services for our clients, and I want to share that with the world. But what I love about all of these speaking engagements is that it is listening to the experts, listening to people who have been there, done that, and it is really allowing you to get insight from people who do have the experience and to not make the same mistakes that we have made. And to hopefully learn from those and to maybe implement some things that the people you are listening to have done correctly in our businesses. I do encourage you to look into the speaking engagements that are going to be all around High Point Market the entire time that market is going on. Mine in particular are going to be happening Friday through Sunday, and mine begin on Friday at Odette Furniture. and they extend through Sunday at Universal Furniture. And I'm going to do a recap of those for you at the end. You can also head to my Instagram, and in the bio, there is a link that says Join Me at High Point Market. And you can click on that, and it will have the 4 speaking engagements and the panels that I will be a part of. But they're all going to be fun. They're all going to be informative. I'm going to be sharing all of the things, even more detail, frankly, than I'm able to share on the podcast. I'm going to be sharing even more with you there. So it's going to be lots of fun. Head to my Instagram, go into the bio. If you're listening to this in real time, High Point Market's official quote unquote dates are October 14th through the 18th. But I am here to tell you that most, if not all, of the showrooms do open early. Some of them open as early as Thursday, and I can tell you almost all of them open on Friday the 13th. So if you are around and want to come early, and it's not really early, as I said, because again, most showrooms do open on the 13th, you can come to market, and which is what I normally do. I normally arrive on Thursday night, and I start my market on a Friday morning and go until the following week. You can come at any point during that time, but the official dates, as you see on the website, are the 14th through the 18th, but the events start on the 13th. And if you come on the 13th, I will tell you that the showrooms are a little less crowded, and everyone is so energetic and fresh and excited to see you. And it's a great, great time to come. And in that same vein, my guest today, Courtney Porter, is also going to be talking about High Point Market. Now, Courtney is the editor-in-chief of Decor News Now. And if you've never heard of or been to the website, it's decornewsnow.com. And on that website, you're going to find all kinds of information about design trends and design products and interior designers and events in our industry and retail trends and design trends and information on art. It's a really, really fabulous website. So I do encourage you to go there and sign up for that. And they have a newsletter that you can also sign up for. But Courtney is a well-rounded individual. She knows a lot about our industry, and she's actually worn a lot of hats in our industry, from marketing, PR, from hosting and producing, and also an interior designer. And of course, her latest venture is running Decor News Now. Courtney Porter is the editor-in-chief of Decor News Now. She is also the co-author of Green Interior Design with Lori Dennis. She combines a deep understanding of luxury design, business development, and the tech media landscape to deliver insights and a voice respected throughout the industry. Interior designers, architects, showrooms, and retail brands have relied on Courtney's consultations to move their businesses upmarket and into the modern age. So I hope you enjoy my conversation about High Point Market with my sweet dear friend, Courtney Porter.
Hey, John.
Hey, Courtney. Welcome to the Designer Within podcast.
I am very excited to be here. I'm very happy to be here. I love you and I love your podcast.
I love you. It's always nice to have friends on, because not only can we give good information to everybody, but we can just say it like it is. It's such easy conversation, right? When it's friends.
Yes, I think we'll cover a lot of ground. We can get all technical and talk about high level design business stuff. And then we can get into the stuff people really need to know about when they go to High Point.
Yes, and I think that's what I want to focus on today, because High Point is around the corner. It's literally here. If you're listening to this in real time, everybody, if you've not registered yet, register now, because it is time for a market. And Courtney and I are going to be sharing with you a lot of details, a lot of things that we've learned over the years. I don't want to say we're experts, but we might be experts on
I think
that.
we're experts. Yeah.
I think we can go ahead and clearly say that we're experts on the High Point market experience. So,
yes.
the good, the bad, the ugly.
And both of us are hosting or on a lot of different panels and discussions throughout market, which is really cool. And I would love for people to stop by any of those that they can. That'll be really fun.
And I want to talk about that too in a minute, just basically not only what we're doing specifically, but just that in general about market, about how fun that is about market, and how it's not just going and seeing pretty things, it's also learning experiences along the way. But before we do all of that, I've given everyone a little bit of info about you, the higher level things, but tell everybody who Courtney Porter is in your own words, maybe some fun facts, and then also about Decor News Now. I want to talk about that as well, other than what I've already told everybody in the intro.
Sure. So I came to design backwards. I fell into things backwards. My background is in film and television, and I went to film school and I started working for a couple of fabulous designers who were starting basically a prototype for what masterclass is now, video edutainment for the design profession. And so I was producing video for them. I was hosting a show with them. I was managing their social media, really just like anything they could, any remote work they could throw me, they would. So I fell into it that way and just developed relationships with all of these fabulous designers and these brands. And things took off from there. That was about 10 years ago. And now I find myself the new editor in chief of Decor News Now. We're a trade publication focused on the luxury residential market. And we're under the Home News Now banner. So underneath that big banner, there's Home News Now, which is very furniture news focused. There's Casual News Now, which is outdoor furniture, and Bedding News Now, which is mattresses. I always like to joke that I get the fun vertical. I get to talk about all the pretty fun things. And my favorite part, though, is that I get to do things like this and talk to really awesome people like you. And I am just always thirsty for knowledge. I want to learn more. I'm usually the one asking the questions. So today roles are reversed a little bit.
How does that feel?
I know. It's weird because then you put me on the
Yeah.
spot, which is fine. I can take it.
You can totally take it. I've put you on the spot more than once, and you've come out with flying colors. So no, I love it. And I think the website is so great because it's fresh, current information, and it's a good place for us to go. And you can either read it for an hour or read it for 5 minutes and grab something that you need to know about the industry, about other designers, whatever. It's there, which I think is really great on the website. So kudos to you on the website. Really great job.
Thank you. And something I really wanted to bring to it, I found a couple of gaps both in the trade publication world and in the shelter publication world. Shelter publications are beautiful aesthetically, but you're talking to the end consumer. And so you're not going to be turning to a shelter publication to get sort of high level design industry knowledge. And then on the other side of that spectrum, you have the trades that really often neglect the aesthetics. And we work in an aesthetic industry. It's important to have that on board. And what I've also found is you have the writers, the journalists who are very focused in the weeds, and that's great. They're super wonks about no tipping policies or whatever, but they're not really speaking to what's going to affect the designers day to day. So that's something that I really wanted to speak to and bring to the publication and have fun while doing it.
That's a lot to balance, really, because you're speaking to a lot of different people. Because I agree with you 100%. We handle all of the magic behind the scenes as designers. We develop the house and the construction and all the things, but the client really, at the end of the day, doesn't care about that, right? The consumer, as you said, they think about aesthetics. And I've done panels at High Point, and we've talked about lighting, for instance. For me, I think about it from the consumer's point of view of how am I going to drive business? What's going to get that consumer excited? What are they going to like? And it all comes down to aesthetics, really, for the consumer and for the designer too. When we walk into a showroom, we're not like, oh my God, the mechanics of that are so beautiful. No, we're like, oh, that brass finish is so great, or that caning is so gorgeous. That's what we are driven to as designers. We work with our eyes, first of all.
Or if you are a big nerd about some of that stuff, which I can be,
You can be both.
the end consumer doesn't care unless you can tell them a really good story.
Yeah, we need to be educated on it. I'm not saying that 100%. But I do feel like it's almost like you have to be a chameleon and figure out what your client is reacting to and then give that to them as you're selling, because it's all about selling to the client, right? So
Yep.
you're selling that product to them. So whatever they're leaning towards is what you have to give them at the end of the day.
Totally, which good segue. So the first panel I'm hosting at High Point, or I'm on with Tom Russell, who's the editor-in-chief of Home News Now, and Alex Milstein, who's editor-in-chief of Casual and Bedding News Now. We're doing a panel at the Point, which is that fun little pop-up venue that's just in the middle of the street between Showplace and Inner Hall and in the middle of everything. Lots of fun stuff's going on there. So our panel will be on sharing consumer insights now, all of the buying trends for residential furnishings. That's one of the subdivisions of Home News Now. And so it'll be very in the weeds and great for manufacturers who are wondering what product categories do we need to expand in. That's what we're going to be covering in that one.
Is that the one where you're walking down the street, you're peeking in, you're like, what is going on inside of there?
Yes, and when you're
it's
doing
on the street.
yes, and when you're on an event inside there, it's mostly people peeking in at you the whole time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you feel like a goldfish.
Okay. It's
That's
an
the one.
attention getter. And the topic's great. I love that topic because you found an overarching theme for all the other things that you're going to be discussing at market, which is the new luxury market, if you will. So, how do you define, first of all, the new luxury market? And I have my ideas, and I know you do as well. And I'm very interested to hear all of the perspectives of everyone that you're going to be speaking with at market. But how do you define that, the new luxury market? Because it's always changing, don't you feel?
Yes. So I think that's the biggest shift that I have observed since I've been in the industry, which is a question I always like to ask people. What is considered luxury has changed, has shifted. The younger, newer buyer and the from the millennial buyer, Gen Z buyer on, they're very values focused. And so that means they actually really do a lot of research. They really, thanks to technology, we have access to tons and tons of visual data at a moment's notice. Everything's on demand. So that means there's a lot more knowledge about materiality and manufacturing and where things come from and if they're good for the environment or not, and if they're good for indoor air quality in your home or not. And that is changing how people buy. That's changing what people consider luxury. I think health more and more is being considered a luxury, and home health is a huge priority for people now, especially in the luxury market. So anything that's going to make people feel like that is going to help. Now, at the same time, because everyone's better researched, they're on to you. You can't greenwash anymore. There's plenty of it that's been going on, but that's something great about technology is that the consumer is smart now. I think there used to be a lot of advertising that really pandered to the lowest common denominator, and that bottom's fallen out, you know? Now you really have to speak up to the customer because they're on to you.
And that was going to be my next question is how are the manufacturers and the vendors, what are they doing to address this? Because I agree. You can't just say we're green. We certify our wood. You can't say those things anymore without backing it up in some way or another. So what are manufacturers doing now to better relay that information and to back up what they're saying that they're doing?
One of the biggest things I see, or the first thing that comes to mind rather, is what vendors are doing with their fabrics. There's a lot more tech being pushed in the packaging sector as well. The Paris Lux Prize, which awards manufacturers who design packaging. There was this brand Raiku that's out of Estonia, of all places. It just won the Paris Lux Pack Award, and it's gorgeous packaging. I'm talking about cardboard here, but it's compostable, like it goes back to the earth. So that is a big part of it, is the shipping and handling aspect of it, and oftentimes the less sexy part of it. And then there is the material. So I think of Four Hands and the new vegan leather that they're using. I hope I get this right. I think it's made in Mexico and it's made out of apple peels or pears, something like that. It's like made out of fruit. And more and more materials are being made that way. There's also, you're asking about what manufacturers are doing. To be perfectly frank, they're not doing enough at all. And they really are only responsive once there's legislation in place that pushes them to do something. And so I'm in California, so there are super strict laws. We can't lacquer, things like that. And it's really only then that the manufacturers on a large scale start to respond to things. Otherwise, and to tie it back into your first question about the new luxury, what we're going to see emerging is, and what we already have, if anyone's paying attention, we're in an era of successful niche lines. People want uniqueness. People want personalization. Think about your Netflix queue. Everyone has Netflix, but your queue is totally personalized to you. Everyone has Instagram, but the algorithm is showing you stuff you want to see. We're used to this same but different approach to stuff. And so if you apply that to home furnishings, home decor, you find all of these brands popping up that are at I would say, mid-high price point, that are unique, that are able to sustainably make product, and they start with that. So it's not something that they're factoring in later. They lead with it. They say, oh, I'm Jillian Gillies is a great example. She's an interior designer out of Montreal, and she's originally from Scotland. Fabulous interior designer. I have a major design crush on her. And she has a new line of quilts that she's making that has come out. And they're mass produced enough that stores can stock them. But everyone is going to be a little bit different because they are made with scrap fabrics. So that's one example. So you have not mass big box scale and also not antique or niche one-offs. You have something in between, and that is the new luxury, and that's the market that's really popping off right now.
I love that. I think everybody wants to feel special in what they're getting in their home anyway. And whether it's a capsule collection or something like you're saying, it's very specifically chosen. The materials are chosen specifically for that product, that it does feel special. And as designers, we do a lot of custom pieces for clients. And I do agree with you. I see a lot of manufacturers allowing more customization with their products as well. And I feel like that's a luxury, as you're talking about,
Yep.
to where, okay, do you want it in a 30 inch or a 32 inch or a 36 inch in this console? That feels luxury to me, because to know that I can say, yes, I want that in 32 and a half inches, and I need that in black lacquer, and I need it with a brass base. And then they can do that for me. Whereas in the past, I had to call a woodworker to do that. So I think that's another but cool iteration of the luxury market evolving in the manufacturing realm. You agree with that?
I do. And people do want to feel part of the process. That is a new tier of the market that I think started emerging thanks to HGTV, really that era, and then just got exacerbated with Instagram and Pinterest and these platforms again with the hyper visualization that's just accessible at a moment's notice and the knowledge. So people do want to feel like they're involved in some way. And then I do think they're in this market, this pocket that I'm talking about, which is this new luxury. It's a little 1 foot in, 1 foot out with the DIY. So they want to an extent, they want to go online and pick out the base and the tabletop and the finish, but they're not going to make it themselves. So there's that hybridization, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that. The word of the year for 2024 should be hybrid or hybridization. You're just going to see that across the board with everything.
I'm on board with that. I used to have a home furnishings line, and I know from the business side of it, it's not easy to say, oh, yes, let's make that in a different finish and a different size. You can't just go back to wherever, Vietnam or India or wherever you're having this made and say, yes, let's do that, because there are MOQs to be done. You have to do all of these things behind the scenes. Yeah. So I get it from the point of view of the manufacturer. But so and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with this, but I find it so interesting that this is happening. And I love that it's happening. But how do you think that they would get around this? And you may not even know, because you're not a manufacturer, of course, but I don't know if you've heard anything in the industry. Are they manufacturing more in the States? Are they manufacturing more with their own company-owned factories? Because I know that can be an easy way to probably get things out into the market a lot quicker, is if they actually own the factory.
100%. Right? Yeah, I think that a great question to ask if you are someone who cares about the environment and has this sort of approach. One of the best questions that you can ask a manufacturer is, do you own your own factories? For sure. I don't know that I'm going to have a great answer to the first part of your question, but absolutely, if you own your own factory or you make everything in-house somewhere, you just have so much more control over the whole process. And that leads to usually better workplace conditions, happier customers, and happier employees. So all around, that's a really good question you can take to a manufacturer.
Okay, I love it. No, I will. And I go to High Point Market not only to see things, but I come armed with like tons of questions that I probably wouldn't get answered over the phone or on an email. But I know that at market will either be the representative that I need to speak with, or sometimes even the company owner is there and I can speak directly to them. So that's what I love about that as well. Now, this whole Mitchell Gold Bob Williams situation is another story, of course.
All right. We lost a good one there.
They did produce locally in North Carolina, and they did own their factories. And that was just that's a conundrum, obviously, to solve that problem. And that's not going to be solved.
A really good question that doesn't necessarily have to do with the quality of the product being produced, but with maybe the customer service or how the financial health of the company is. Are you owned by a VC who doesn't work in furniture and doesn't know anything about design? Because that's been happening. These VCs come in and start scooping up companies because they see that they're very profitable, but they don't know how furniture is made and they don't know how the design industry works. And I think a big misconception from outsiders, even some people that are close to it, is that furniture is fashion, and it's not. And fashion has a much, much lower price points, much faster turnover rate. You get a new pair of shoes way more often than you get a new sofa. Everyone does. Even if you had the finances to redesign your room every single year, doesn't it kind of sound like a headache?
It does for me. As a designer, if a client wants to do that, please call me. I'm happy to.
That'd be awesome, but it's a little annoying. Just go to the mall.
Yeah, but you're exactly right. It is easier, and there's knockoff companies who knock off fashion. My husband used to work for a company who did this, would knock off a really big company. In 8 weeks, they would have an entirely new line that was built off of someone else's designs. As you said, furniture and interior design and home furnishings is a different market. It's not usually as quick as that to do that. But I love your point of view of saying, asked about the owners, asked about the history of the company, asked about the customer service, because it always comes down to, it's beautiful there in front of you, but what's behind the scenes? Is there support? Are there people who's going to take care of you after the sale is done? And if there's an issue, take care of the client. And because that's the problem that I have as a designer, is if there is an issue, who do I call? How do I resolve the problem? What makes me still look like the hero to my client after I've solved the problem for them? And for me, it's about reaching out to the vendor and the manufacturer to take care of that. So I love that point of view for doing that. So thanks for mentioning that. What else are you doing at High Point Market?
Okay, so number 2. So the next day, that first one is on the Consumer Insights Now panel is on Friday morning at 10 a.m. At the Point. And then this next one is Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Also, I'll be back at the Point. And this one is called In Style and On the Money, Start with Art. So I'm partnering with Oliver Gal, specifically one of the owners, Lola Sanchez, who's also the artist. The company, the super cool story. They're this super fun retail-facing art company. They're based out of Miami and run by 2 sisters. And one of the sisters is the artist extraordinaire. So her and I are going to be doing a fireside chat about starting with art when you're working on a design project and how that can help designers be way more lucrative, which is a really unusual approach a lot of designers have not thought about. But what's interesting is first of all, I'm an art dork. I know nothing about it, but I'm obsessed with it. And it's all I care about in the world. And all I want to do all day long is go to museums and art galleries. So in the last year and a half or so, I've been on a lot of these panels and talks. And even when they're not explicitly about art has come up. Some designer has raised their hand and they've said, I have a client who wants me to be their art curator, and I am so anxious about this. I'm in way too deep because I said, yeah, sure, I know how to shop for art, but shopping for pretty art you like is so different than investment piece, curating a real collection of blue chip art. And so a lot of these designers in this new luxury pocket are finding themselves in this position where they're being asked to be the art curator and they don't know what to do. And that's really interesting to me. I've been tracking this for a while. I just hosted a panel last week at the Pacific Design Center here in West Hollywood about this very topic too. And that was a great time. It was a masterclass for me. I could have sat there and listened all day. It was with Kate Marker, who's fabulous and so much fun. And Leonardo Ledesma, who, if you don't know him, is like just an absolute shark and the best stoic personality you want when you're liaising between a designer and their client and they're about to make a $50,000 art purchase. And they're like, is this the right one? And he's the person to do that. So it was really great. And then Colleen Nielsen from Cole Martinez Curtis and Associates, they're a big hospitality firm. So I had a great time talking to her about what makes good lobby art and how do you choose lobby art. And this was like an absolute dream for me. So we're going to be doing a version of that. And it does have a little bit of a different focus because Oliver Gal's this like super fun, funky line. Like it's not stuffy. It's super accessible. And it's a really great way for designers to start with dipping their clients' toes into art collecting that way. So that'll be a really fun talk. Definitely come to that. That's on Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Point.
I need to come to that because I either find that clients are what I consider experts in art and they have a very distinctive, specific request and specific taste in gallery art, or they don't care and they let us choose things. So we're choosing from mass-produced pieces and things that we can find from these companies who make beautiful pieces that we all know of, but they're not one of a kind. They're not gallery pieces. And I usually have clients who either go all in and every room in their house has this very expensive, very beautiful, one-of-a-kind pieces, or it's just this, John, you do whatever you want, and you have a budget of $10,000 for the entire home. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's the dichotomy that I find with most of our clients. But I think it's great, and I have a lot to learn about that, frankly. I just usually call in the experts when it comes to that and bring in people who know a lot more about it.
Of course. And I am a big fan of delegation and calling in an expert. If someone can do it in less time than you and better than you, and you don't enjoy it, outsource. But With some of those companies, and we should name a few, but who are you thinking of? Like the Left Banks and the Trowbridge art and frame
Yeah,
stores, like those.
yeah,
So
yeah, RFA,
Buffet, yeah.
Wendover, all these companies who have beautiful pieces, and most clients love them completely.
Yes, and that also those they're also speaking to exactly this like this new luxury consumer who wants to hybrid DIY something. So
Yeah.
they go, "Oh, I like that piece, but can you do it in this frame? And can you change the, like instead of gold foil here, can you do silver?" They can do all of that. And so it's a very that is a very different consumer than who is blue chip art collecting for sure. But this is also part of that kind of hybrid new luxe consumer.
I love this definition because it's something that I feel like we've been doing a lot, and now I see it more and more now that you mention it. It's really a true thing. We just did this with the Left Bank piece. We had a client who said, "Oh my God, I love this piece, but it doesn't work with anything in my home." So we changed it to a little more beige here, a little more brown here, a little more green there. And then she ended up with this semi-custom, as you say, hybrid piece of art that nobody else has. And that's exactly what it is. It was her original. It was original to her. No one else has it. And she felt
Yep.
very special about it, and it fit in her price point. And FYI, this was a very expensive home that this piece of art went into. So again, it's not dictated by the size of the home or the caliber of furniture that they have necessarily. It's about how they perceive, in this situation, how they perceive art, right? What their perception of art, of what they want to spend on art. Because people will spend money on what they value, obviously. And that's the emotional aspect that we have to play into. And when we're selling these things to our clients, right?
Yep. There's also another thing that fits into this pocket. Another thing that's happening is there is a lot of homeowners now who are building these big new builds. Maybe they're in the middle of Tennessee and it's a 3,500 square foot, completely new build, totally turnkey. And by the time they get to the end of the build, they've run out of money for furniture. Now they have to furnish it. So all of a sudden, there is this market for people who probably should not have built a big old house in the first place. But now that they have and they have to furnish it, there is now this opening in the market for maybe a lower tier of furniture to get into those homes that was not there before. So that's also how some of these, I would say, like mid-tier furniture lines are moving up market as well, is through some people who ran out of budget.
Yeah, no, that's true, and it's unfortunate, and I've been there, done that with clients
Yeah.
where we're really excited about the new construction home, and it's gorgeous, the architecture is gorgeous, the style is amazing, you're really excited, and then you get to the end, and they're like, "And by the way, we want to buy everything at this big box store," and I'm like, "You know where your house is located, and you know what it looks like from the outside. You don't want someone to walk in and gasp for the wrong reason. You want them to gasp
Right.
for the right reason." So
Right.
I've tried to work into my process, like on the front end of that. Okay, let's allocate and let's value enough funds to put your investment into the furnishings as well versus just the structure of the house. But I agree with you 100% with that. And it's almost like it's top of mind at that time. That's what they're thinking about when they're building the house and planning the house, and all of their money's going into that. And then they get buying fatigue, and then they're just tired of spending money and they don't have any money, and they're, at the end of the day, they're like, "Okay, I just want to move into my house and be done with it."
For a lot of people who go through this process too, they realize, oh yeah, there's a reason I don't do this for a living. You know, I gotta hire the professionals because this is
Thank
not
God
what.
they feel that way. Thank
Yeah,
God
I
they
think a lot of people do feel that way after they go through this process one time, but then they're like, I'm good. I don't need to do that again.
Oh, it's funny. I'm doing a panel at this furniture company called Odette Furniture on Friday, and it's about designers who design for themselves. Right? It's all the ups and downs and how designers have designed their own home, and it's no different than the consumer. Sometimes I find so many parallels between issues that I face when I design my own home versus issues that I hear from my clients. So if a designer out there if you've never designed your own home, I implore you to do it. I implore you to put yourself through the rigmarole and the headache and the chaos and the construction and the fights with your significant other and all the things, because it will give you this great empathetic background to be able to speak to your clients about whenever they say something to you. You can relate to them a lot better.
Yep. I was talking to Christopher Kennedy about exactly that. And
Yeah, he
he
just
goes, oh,
finished his
yeah.
place recently.
Yep. And he goes, oh, it's just as annoying when
Yeah.
you design your own. You open a wall and you don't know what's going to be there.
Well,
You
you know what
never
I did?
know.
I just turned it over to my lead designer and I said, just pretend I'm the client and you just design for me and you present to me and I'll just tell you yes or no. And that's how I've solved the problem.
That was probably really fun for you to cosplay as the client for a day, right?
It was, and I knew that investment-wise, I was buying everything at my cost, so it was great. So, how much input, by the way, do you have? You're doing all of these panels. Do you have a lot of input in the actual content of the panel or the panel like topic, or and these specifically that we're talking about? How many of these did you actually conjure up the topic of?
With all of these, I was given the topic, but then I'm the one constructing the content and the questions after.
I see. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. It's just funny how it all worked out into this sort of, it's a very consistent theme I see happening with all of them, even though you weren't the ones who came up with the topic necessarily.
Yeah, I think that's something that something I'm always very cognizant of. Thank you for saying that. Actually, is I'm always trying to connect the dots and zoom out and get a bird's eye view and see what the larger picture is here, because we don't exist in a silo. I
Yeah.
actually think that's something that a lot of designers and vendors, for different reasons, need to know when they go into market, is that some of these showrooms will say, "Oh, come by for a tour." And I go, "Oh God, how long is this going to be?" And for the designers, that's such a pain, because a designer is focused on the projects they're working on right now. And so maybe they love like boho chic stuff, but right now they're working on a Georgian home in Boston. And so all they're focused on is that. And they're not going to go look at your outdoor furniture, because that's not what they're focused on right now. And they're going to forget about it 2 seconds later if they did. And so that's why I think this is such a tangent, but a good rep is so, so important and can really make or break a designer's relationship with the line. They're doing so much heavy lifting. And the best reps are the ones that go, "Are you working on anything that you need this for right now? No? Great. Move along. Call me in the spring." Or they go, "Oh, actually, call my friend who reps this other line. They'll help you because that's a little bit more in the lane of what you're looking for." That's what makes a really good rep. And I think that designers can be a little bit more proactive about communicating their needs and advocating for themselves that way at market and saying yes, no to stuff.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the manufacturers need to recognize, a lot of them, that they're not the only game in town.
Yeah, and otherwise you're walking around a showroom with your eyes glazed over and not caring about what you're seeing. And I just had, it's so funny you say this, Courtney. I just had this conversation with the owner of a huge company. If I said the name, everyone would know who this was. But we had a Zoom call last week, and a one-on-one call just about business and where everything is in the market. And I said that very thing, because I say that about GCs and builders. I say, you're only as good. You can tell me whatever you want, but you're only as good, Mr. GC, as the tradesperson that you have putting my tile in that bathroom on Friday. That's as good as you are, because that is a representative of you. Same thing with these big companies who you're in the showroom and they sell you on everything, and then the rep turns into be this not responsive, or doesn't show up for appointments, or doesn't send you samples when you need them, or doesn't reply if there's a problem. So I said that to this person, and I think it was almost like an eye-opening situation where sometimes they're so far removed from the boots on the ground of all of the nitty-gritty that we do in the design industry. But I feel 100% with you with that. And if a rep told me, you know what, there's nothing right now that you really need to see. Next market, we're going to have something, I will come back, because I will have more respect knowing that they're valuing my time. Because the older I get and the busier I get and the more things are happening in my life, time is more important to me than anything. Truly, that's my currency. Really, is time.
Yeah.
So the people who value that are the people that I want to be around. So I totally agree with you there.
And the people who value their time more than anything else are also the ones that are hiring high-end designers. That's also the client. So they come from that same ethos as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of value and time, don't you love how I touched on it earlier, but again, it's not just about walking around market and seeing pretty things. It is very informative. I feel that whether it's a new designer or a seasoned designer, all these panels that you're talking about, the panels that I'm on, and there's bukus others of things happening everywhere around market. It is just, if you really plan your market out, and by the way, a little tip for everyone listening, that's what we do as a team. We have a spreadsheet. So if someone on my team puts together a spreadsheet of all the places that we have to hit, places that we maybe want to hit, and then these are our like third tier places that we can go there if we have time. And then we mix in all of that with appointments, and we mix in that with any panels that I'm on, and we mix in any educational moments that we want to attend as well. So I highly encourage you to plan when you're going to High Point Market. But what I feel that if everybody goes and keeps their ears and their eyes open. It's a full experience of learning about product and learning about the industry as a whole and the business side you and I are so passionate about. Do you agree with
Yeah, 100%. Every day I'm getting like another invite to another panel, or I'm seeing something else on the schedule. I'm like, oh gosh, everything's overlapping. I want to go to
one week out now? Everybody's, oh crap, we got to send out these emails now.
yeah, everyone's rushing to get, and I want to be everywhere at once. Yes, it's always so overwhelming. Do you have any recommendations for people who are maybe going to market their first or second time about how to plan their schedule? As I know you have your tiered thing, but what about like a focus, or I don't know. Other thoughts there? I
Oh,
still
I do.
asking for myself.
Oh, no, for sure. I think that first of all, you need to know what your design aesthetic is in general. If you've been in business for a year or for 10 years, you have a look, you have a design style, you have a way that you design. So gravitate towards the showrooms that you feel could fulfill that design for you and then go there first. So make that hit list first. So if you like Interlude Home and Vanguard, and if these are places that you feel like, yes, they have a sofa that I like or a coffee table that I like, put those on your hit list first and go there. And then I always like to sprinkle in a little bit of the like salon, like the suites at Market Square, or the first level at Inner Hall, of course. I love that because it's not just it's a few temporaries, of course, but it's also some new companies that I've never heard of. And I find some of the most amazing pieces just by strolling through Salon and through Inner Hall and just seeing what all of these new companies are bringing in there. And I know some of them have been there before, but I find that's a good way to bring in some fresh new things that you want to see. But I think if you go in with a distinct feeling about knowing what you design for and not designing all over the place, but going with a almost a tunnel vision of this is who my client is, this is how I design, this is the type of products that I like, this is the quality that I like, and then do a bit of research on the High Point website, then you can map out an entire 3 or 4 days there and knock it out.
That gave me a couple of ideas. So one, I second your thought about just taking some time out to walk the first floor of IHFC, because there are also some lines. Sarid, for example, they
Mm-hmm.
have a big showroom in the C&D building, but they have a smaller space where they're exhibiting on the first, maybe not the first floor, in Inner Hall. And so you're gonna just there's some brands like that where you'll discover like a little taste of them. And if you like them, you can go look at their larger showroom a little more off campus, which is cool. Another tip that I would have is for designers, a lot of these lines are still, it's a little bit of a holdover and things are changing, but a lot of these lines, especially the bigger kind of legacy heritage lines, are a little more guarded. Like they won't just let you in the
Yes.
door, unless, right? And my suggestion would be to contact your local multi-line showroom. If you have a good relationship with your multi-line showroom and you use them a lot, contact them and say, hey, will you be at market? And are you going to be going to these showrooms? And can I tag along on your tours of whichever those are, Lee Industries or Baker McGuire or someone like that?
Very good point. Very good point. And also, I know we go shopping for specific clients and specific projects, but I do say also, as a third tip, keep your eyes open for new things that may inspire you because you don't know what's coming around the corner. And even if you're not, for instance, planning on putting a swivel chair in the current project that you're on, if you see a swivel chair that you love, because they're hard to find sometimes that are really cool and interesting, sit in that swivel chair, swivel around in it, test the comfort of it, turn on that light switch on that lamp that you see, test out the things. That is the takeaway that clients love hearing from us, knowing that, oh, yes, we sat on this sofa, or oh, yes, we did turn on this lamp and all these things. And we know that it's really well made. And people love to hear that because otherwise, they're just buying something quote unquote online and they're trusting us to know that it's right. But when they hear that firsthand experience that, oh my gosh, you saw this and you felt the
Right.
fabric, and they love that. Don't you feel that's another bonus by going to market too?
Yes. Yeah, of course. New stuff is always awesome. I'm also really excited about, I was just sent the product previews the other day and we actually just published my favorites who I'm looking forward to on the site, on Courtney's now. I was just sent the product previews for Shop Auger, which is coming to High Point, and it's going to be happening at the same time as Market, and it's at Market too. So it's not a big deal to also pop in and see them. And it's basically, if you've not been to a Shop Auger show, they're in New York now, they're abroad. It's like an elevated gift show. You can find, so it's smaller items for the most part, but some really cool cutting edge designy stuff. And I was very excited going through the catalog of that.
And on that note, too, I think if you're at market for the first time or second time and you've never ventured away from the big high rises that are there, there's lots of amazing shops on the side streets where it really began. All of the 1 and 2 story buildings that you're going to find Mr. Brown Home. And it just pops into my mind, for instance. But head out, venture out. There's shuttles if you don't want to walk that far, but there's lots and lots of lots. It's almost overwhelming. I know that when you're going for the first time and even for the second time and even like me for the 35th time.
Yeah, I don't even know how many times I've been at this point.
It's a lot. But I will tell you, wear comfortable shoes. I know everybody says that, but there are so many cute, comfortable shoes out there that you can wear. They don't have to be ugly.
Sneaker game is strong.
Yeah, you can still look cute and trendy. And but definitely do that. And also, again, plan your trip out. That's important. What is your favorite part about High Point Market? Just curious. What do you love about it the most? Because I know I have my perspective about it, which is a lot of different things. But when you go from your point of view, because you're not shopping, for instance, for clients necessarily, you're going from a different perspective. What is your favorite?
But I have before.
Yeah.
I do shop sometimes. But yeah, I think because I live between LA and New York, all the product is here anyways. I don't see a lot of newness, so it's not the product. It's definitely the people. Really, at the end of the day, that's what I love connecting with everyone in the same place for once in person. That's really exciting to me. And I love hearing about what everyone else is working on. You get such a wide variety. And then you also, back to my thing about trying to connect the dots and see what the through lines are, you also notice some themes about what people are working on. And it was actually my big takeaway from talking to everyone last market was that, the designers brought on to do this giant new build from the ground up. And by the time building was done, they ran out of money. That's where I kept hearing that over and over again. And it's why a lot of designers who maybe in the past, how do I put this delicately? Like in the past would not be caught dead walking through IHFC. Suddenly there they are. And they're like, I'm shopping because that's what the clients put in their house right now. You know?
Interesting. Yeah. And I don't know how to say this delicately, but do you have a least favorite thing about High Point Market?
Yes. Yes.
You even have an answer. You always have an answer. I knew you would have an answer.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Of course. The high point of it all, like the location and the inaccessibility of everything and the lack of food. It's getting better. But I'm such a foodie and there's nowhere to eat anywhere. What I normally do is stay much farther away in Winston-Salem where there's good food. So that's always, that's a tip I tell people as well. There's a trade-off though. If you have appointments and you need to be there from sun up to sundown, then you probably want to stay in High Point proper. But the trade-off is that the places to stay aren't as nice and there's not really any good food anywhere. If you stay farther out, then you have much more of a commute, but at least your accommodations are going to be better. Pick your poison.
I always do the same. I never stay in High. First of all, there's very few places to stay there, like physically very few places.
Right.
But yeah, I bring my entire team every fall. We go once a year. I go twice a year, but I bring my team once per year. And we go and we're going to be there at this one. And we do the same thing. We all get in the car and I drive everyone in every morning and we do our thing. And then we go back and have dinner in the evening. And it's a whole experience. But yeah, you're right. It's a little limited. Now, the showrooms have plenty of food throughout the day. I will say that. And you probably want to plan a doctor's check when you leave and get back home to have your liver checked with all the cocktails that are served during market.
That's true.
Holy moly. Everywhere you turn, there's a cocktail stand happening. They want to keep you completely lubricated there, don't they?
Indeed, they do. I know my first market, I remember walking in at, I don't know, like 7 a.m. and they're like, here, have a mimosa. And I'm thinking like, oh, I have to take one to be nice and I'll, sip it a little bit. But then it's every single showroom. I'm like, I can't do this every single time. It's a long day.
That was my problem the first time I went. I did do it every single time, and I became like this slothy mess by the end of the day. So now
by 4 p.m., that's how you know who the newbies are, because by 4 p.m., they're sloshed.
Yep. I love the camaraderie of it all. I love the camaraderie of the editors are mingling with designers and designers that you haven't seen for a while from a different part of the country are getting to hang out together. I love all of that. There used to be more of an air of arrogance, I have to say, between some designers who would attend market from different areas who would come in and they would be a little hoity-toity, a little above everyone else. That used to annoy me to no end because I just wanted to say my projects are just as good as yours. I don't know why you have that attitude. And I don't even know if you're making money doing what you're doing, because even though you have these great projects, sorry, I just, whatever. That's my little business coaching high horse that I get on sometimes. Your projects are great, but are you really making money from it? But all that being said, I feel like that is breaking down now, the barriers between that, and everybody is just letting their guard down and saying things, talking about pricing, talking about what they're charging, talking about what their clients are asking for, talking about where their projects are located. And I love this openness. And I don't know
Yeah.
if it's pandemic related. I don't know if it's just because, as you say, the market is changing, the luxury market is evolving, and there is this hybrid situation happening. But I think it's just fabulous. Do you see that too between
I
the design
do.
industry?
Yes. Yes, you're right. And it makes me think about Christopher Todd, who I think you're on a panel with, right?
Yeah.
He's on, yeah. And he and I were on a media tour together at a manufacturer's plant. And he was so forthcoming about giving them notes, which is why we're there and what they asked for. He was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing, but it felt fresh and we're not used to that. So many of those tours you go on, it feels like you're there to just pat the manufacturer on the back and tell them what they're doing is so fabulous and just fawn all over whatever thing and the bench, whatever. And he did it. And he said, look, this is okay, but I wouldn't put this, my clients aren't going to go for this reason. And maybe they'd work in this market, but they're not going to work for mine. And he gave them the exact feedback that they want, that they need. And I think that's just him and his personality. And we're like so lucky to have him. But I do see that as a trend. More people are more forthcoming and more open to sharing. There's much less gatekeeping going on, which is really cool. And I think we have we have technology to thank for a lot of that. We hear a lot because it's fun to complain about stuff. We complain a lot about everyone being glued to their screens and oversharing. But this is one of those upsides of that, is that everyone's just put all cards on the table now. I do think that attitude has emerged from that.
I hope it continues, and I hope that everybody just be yourself. Life's too short, first of all, to put on any airs, and nobody is better than anyone else, and it's just exhausting. And maybe this is just coming with age, because I will tell you, in the beginning, as a young little baby designer, I felt like I had to be this other person that I felt was successful in the industry, or that I felt was the best at whatever they're doing. I don't feel that anymore. I want to just be me, and I think that if everybody was just themselves, like Christopher is a perfect example. Christopher does
Yeah.
two rats patooties who hears what he says, or he's just himself. Yep. And I feel the same way. And I think that to me is more enduring and more meaningful and more impressive than anybody who talks about money or talks about the level of client that they have. And I encourage every designer listening to just be you, just be honest, and share information with one another. It will get you so much farther in life and in business, really, than putting on any fakeness that you feel like.
Yeah. One of the other panels I'm doing is a business development. We're not calling it a panel. Again, it's like a fireside chat with two of us. It's Yudi Kaufman and myself. And he is like a Swiss Army knife for designers. He's very focused on licensing deals and really looking to rocket launch their career. And he worked with Robin Barron for years in New York. And she was already doing fabulous residential design projects, but he's really responsible for exploding that brand into what it's become. And now he's branched off and he's doing that for other designers. So I'm excited to talk to him. And for that chat, that'll be at Feisy Rugs on Monday, 1 p.m.
Okay.
So that'll be really fun. And one thing, though, that I'm really looking forward to diving into, one aspect of this, is that you can lead a horse to water. You see this all the time in the work you do. Someone goes, I want to be on a bunch of panels and public speak, and I want a book, and I want to exploit my social media following. You can go, okay, cool. So I can give you the tools to do that. I can show you what needs to be done, what investment that's going to take. But I think the question that's not asked enough is, why do you really want to do that? And for me, the answer, like brand awareness, is not enough. It's yes, but why? What do you really want to do? When I was working in business development with this designer, and we got her very close to, she was like TV ready, very close to a show, and she was based on the East Coast. And when it came down to it, she was like, so you're telling me I need to take my kids out of high school, move them across the country. My husband's got to figure out if he can work remote or if there's an office in LA. And I need to uproot my whole life. And now I do that. And then when do I have time to design? And it's, oh no, you don't have time to design anymore. Now you do this. Now you do it. This is a different career. And now you do this. And that was it. She goes, oh no, I'm an interior designer. I want to actually interior design.
And making a third less money, at least.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And so the question of why becomes increasingly important. Otherwise, you're just building up a bunch of stuff for what?
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I'm a very big proponent of defining your own success and what success means to you. And it's okay if you don't want to be on a magazine cover. It's okay if you don't want to be on television. It's okay if you want to sit and work from a home office as a designer and take the best care of your clients that you can take of them. That is amazing. And if that is what is successful to you, live it every day and embrace it. And you have to live someone else's version of success. And I so happy that you said that, because I feel like many times, again, in our industry, it's just this zenith, this mountain that we're all supposed to climb, and no one tells us why we're supposed to climb. But for some reason, we're all supposed to climb the same mountain and get to the same place. And halfway there, sometimes I ask myself the same thing years ago. I was like, why am I going after X, Y, and Z, when that's not really part of my DNA? That's not part of my pathway to success. That's not part of my goals, but it's all about aligning your goals with what you want in life and what you want in your business.
When I started working with TV designers, what I found is their name is on a firm and the people who work for them are doing the designing, which was fine for them because it's what they wanted. But their day-to-day did not resemble that of an interior designer. Their day-to-day more closely resembled that of probably like the head of sales of a furniture company. They're taking a lot of meetings and then they take a lot of lunches and then they'd shoot a show and, maybe they would check in on the design project, but maybe not. It got phased out at that point.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, it's about defining, again, what you want and then moving towards that. Because if someone else is leading your pathway, then your days change, your months change, and then your years change. And before you know it, you've spent 5 years doing something that somebody else has told you to do. But anyway, that's a whole other episode, which I think we should probably reconvene.
I know. We probably
I love that topic. Before we leave, though, did I miss any of your panels? Let's talk about.
Yeah, we missed one.
Okay, yeah.
One more. This one is on Saturday, October 14th at 4 p.m. It's going to be in the Sherwin-Williams seminar room. That's the top floor of the suites area.
It's a great location.
And it's on designing for your mind, body, and spirit. And that's going to be a big panel. Aviva Standoff is on that, who I think is just so fabulous. Her lighting line for Curry is still one of my very favorites. Denise Gordon, Carolyn Kelly, and Mercedes Austin from Mosaic Tile. They're super cool. And each of them, and they're not my stories to tell, they're theirs. So you'll have to come to the panel to hear them. But each of them has a really gorgeous personal story about the sort of transformative nature of design and art in their lives. And this panel, even though I think it seems the most specific of all the ones that I'm on or hosting, I actually think it's the most blanketed. It's the most general because it's really providing that why. It's answering that question why, and it's actually giving all of this other stuff some importance. Why are consumer buying insights? Why is that interesting? Why does that matter? This answers that because it makes a difference. We may not be curing cancer, although I don't know, if you take the black mold out of some walls, you might be preventing it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But this answers why anything any of us do has any importance at all.
I love all the panels that you've mentioned. And as you guys are listening and coming around High Point, you have to balance my panels with Courtney's because we're all over High Point. Both of us are. So I'm literally everywhere as well from Friday until Sunday. So I'm with you. I'm going to try to come to yours and vice versa. So I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We'll be running by each other, high-fiving in the halls.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And if you.
High-fives down Hamilton.
And tell me, for people listening and watching on YouTube, tell me how they can learn more about Decor News Now. You have a newsletter, I understand, I can sign up for. Tell me about that.
Yeah, for sure. It's decornewsnow.com. You can go to decornewsnow.com and you can subscribe to our newsletter. I send it out every Wednesday and it's industry news, but it's also really fun. And I host a video podcast series called Disruptive Design, and that goes out nearly weekly in that newsletter as well. And that one's fun because I've been loving doing that because I just talk to, like I'm talking to you now, with anyone I find interesting. And so one day it can be like the president of Sunbrella, and then the next it's a potter that I discovered in downtown LA who I think is really cool. And everyone has stories, and I find the common threads there, and I think you will find the common threads there too.
I love it. Find Courtney Porter on Insta.
Courtney Porter on Insta is me. If you want to connect. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, Courtney. I have loved, as usual, our conversation. You're fabulous. And I will probably see you at High Point, passing down the street as a high five as well. And I'm sure
Yep.
we'll be chewing the fat over a cocktail at least once or twice during the time.
You know it. You know
Thanks
it.
for being here.
Bye, John.
There you have it. Wasn't that great? Courtney is such a fun person. I love hanging out with her as often as I can. And what great insights she has to our industry as well. So check Courtney out at all of those speaking engagements that she mentioned. And for those who want to catch me at High Point Market, you can find me Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. at Odette Furniture. This is a new showroom and it's 100 North Centennial Street. And the furniture looks beautiful. And I'm really excited to talk about this because the folks on the panel that I am on, we are all discussing designing for yourself, how we have designed our own homes and the ups and downs of that. You can also catch me on Saturday morning at Fine Art Handcrafted Lighting. This is in the IHFC building, C229, floor 2. And I will be there with two of my fellow podcasters, Luann Nidiera and Rick Campos, host of Amazing Podcast. And we will be talking about the best practices that we have learned as podcast hosts. So that will be a lot of fun. And that is, again, Saturday, October 14th at 11 a.m. So join me, Luann, and Rick there at Fine Art Handcrafted Lighting, IHFC building, Saturday, October 14th at 11. And that same day, on Saturday at 3 p.m., you can join me at the Elk Home showroom where I will be with three other fabulous designers and we will be talking about building interior design revenue with wholesale sourcing. A great topic that everybody should come and listen to. And that is sponsored by Furniture, Lighting, and Decor. And the big one that I want you all to come to, this is one that I am hosting on my own. It is just me and you, and we are going to be talking about the new interior design pricing model. This is how I have come up with a new pricing model to price our services for our clients. It's really interesting. I think you're going to love it, and I've simplified it, and I'm giving away lots of free information on this one, everybody, so it's really helpful, and I think you're going to walk away with some great insights on how to price your services, how to choose your services, and how to relay those services for your own clients. And that is Sunday, October 15th at Universal Furniture Learning Center. They have that wonderful learning center there, and that will be at 4 p.m. And again, that is just me and you. This one fills up really fast, so if you have not registered yet, it's free to register, and I encourage you to head over to the Universal page to do that, or again, to the link in my bio, but do that quickly because it was standing room only last time when I did a presentation there. So all of these can be found on my Instagram page at The Designer Within or at John McClain Design, and go to the link in the bio and you can see the little tab there that says my High Point Market event, and you can click there and there's all the places to register. So I would love to see you. Come up and say hi if you see me at market. Come up and give me a hug, shake my hand, whatever you want. But I would love to know if you're listening to the podcast, if you're enjoying the podcast, and we can just dish about all things High Point Market, dish about all things interior design business, whatever you want to talk about. But I would love to meet you. And as you all know, I am an online business coach and course instructor for interior designers on how to run their businesses, start your businesses, operate your businesses, all of the nitty gritty of the behind the scenes of what we do in our businesses as interior design professionals. And I'm going to drop this little tidbit of information here with you today as an exclusive. I am working on something so exciting, so fun, and I feel is going to be so helpful for you with my courses and with my business training and coaching. And I just wanted to dangle that carrot out in front of you to stay tuned because there's going to be lots and lots of fun and exciting announcements happening around my courses and online education program very soon. You will be the first to know. So if you're not following me yet on Instagram, please do so at The Designer Within and at John McClain Design, and I will keep you updated there as well. But please stay tuned for that. I'm so excited about it, and I have some exclusive opportunities for you for the first people to participate. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Thank you, my friends, for listening again today. It's been a joy to have you here, and if I don't see you at High Point Market, I will see you next week on the Designer Within podcast. Thank you so much. Thanks for sticking with me to the end of the Designer Within podcast. It means the world to me. If you're ready to dive deeper into the topics that we've discussed here, be sure to check out my online courses and coaching program, The Designer Within Business. You'll join other like-minded creatives in various phases of their own businesses, whether just starting out or career veterans who are enjoying the freedoms and profits that can come from an organized and structured business. Now's the time to make the change for you and your company, and I'll be right by your side the entire way. Learn more at johnmcclain.co. That's johnmcclain.co.